thought jelly beans could be so terrifying. Until now. Welcome back, my fellow gamers. This is Top 10 Gaming and I'm your host Amanda McKnight. Today we'll be visiting the horrifying world of creepypastas, internet urban legends. For this video today we'll specifically be diving into ones that focus on the bright and generally cheerful game known as Fall Guys. Though in these stories the game might appear less bright and cheerful and even more dark and demonic. You've been warned. Alright now, let's get counting. Number 10. Hangman level. I used to love the game Hangman, and it feels like somehow my computer, or more specifically the game Fall Guys, figured that out. Have any of you experienced this level? Let me know. As far as I know, I can find no record of it anywhere. When I start the level, I'm a little bean on the platform. The round is called Hangman. What happens? In the game, other beans race around selecting letters to try and solve a puzzle in front of them. But the only strange thing was I couldn't compete. I was actually one of the hangmans. We're in teams, and if your team guesses wrong, one of your hangmans gets hanged. The weird thing was when my team guessed wrong and I was the one to be hung with what looked like a candy rope, like a pull-and peel, I also found myself short of breath. Is this a real round? Is this normal? Was it anxiety? Or was it something else? Number 9. Family competition. Charlie loved her family. They always supported her, and even bought her Fall Guys when she couldn't stop talking about it after watching her favorite streamer play it on YouTube. But something went wrong once Charlie started playing the game. She noticed little things changing in her house. Her parents and her brother wearing dramatic outfits with really bright colors that looked almost cartoonish. Then one day she woke up, but when she went downstairs for breakfast, her family wasn't there. She creeped up to her parents' room and noticed in their place were the giant round bodies of the Fall Guys. They were no longer her parents, they were her competitors. They pushed her forcefully, she fell hard backwards, smashing her head off the wardrobe. And before we move on to the next spot, if you are loving these creepypastas as much as we love sharing them with you, be sure to give this video a thumbs up. It really helps us out, and thank you to those who already have done that. Number 8. First or else. I thought I had gotten quite good at Fall Guys. I was very competitive and always aimed to do better, but one day I was having a really rough session. I just couldn't seem to qualify past the first level. Frustrated after my 6th failure, I threw my controller at the screen. The screen cracked and my computer screen seemed to turn to a red tint. In my headphones I heard a voice whisper, "Time to compete." The game auto-played. I reached for my controller worried about the screen, thinking I'd broken it and somehow also the game. The controller still seemed to work and I found myself running through the obstacle course with more passion than ever before. I was the first to qualify. I let out a cheer. Next time around I qualified second. Not as good, but still pretty great. As I jumped over the line, I noticed a stabbing pain in my hand. My thumb began to bleed before I noticed it dislocating and tearing away from my hand on its own. First or else, the qualifying screen read. Number 7. The bottom. Have you ever wondered what really happens when you fall in Fall Guys? One time the game glitched and I found out. As I fell, instead of spawning back at the top, I continued to follow the little jelly bean. It fell through a blue sky, a green sky, a gray sky, the bean changing colors with the sky. And then the clouds faded away and I started to notice flames engulfing me as I fell. They were orange and yellow at first, but then I noticed they were white hot. I don't think this is a part of the game that they want you to see. The falling scene ended with a gruesome sound as my Fall Guy was impaled on a spike. When I spun the camera around, I noticed demons as far as I could see. Fall Guys demons anyways. It looked like I was in hell. Number 6. Obstacle obsession. Fall Guys is a game I quickly became obsessed with. Obsessed to the point that I started feeling like I was always in the game. I began jumping the gap between the bus and the sidewalk as opposed to just stepping on. I started seeing puddles or ice as an opportunity to test out my goo slides in real life. Anytime I saw a hammer, I chose to try and distance myself from it. The jungle gym at school became my own obstacle course. At first this was fun until I realized I couldn't stop. The game seemed to have gotten into my mind somehow, brainwashed me to the point that separating reality from gameplay was impossible. I started dressing like a Fall Guy. One day when I was getting on the subway, I found myself obsessively staring at the doors. They reminded me of the sliding doors I'd seen in the game. I couldn't take my eyes off of them, and I found myself uncontrollably drawn to running back and forth through them at the last second to prove my prowess. The first time I succeeded, no problem. I decided to wait a little longer the second time when running out. Nearly made it, and then I felt compelled to wait even a little longer, running back on. This time, I wasn't so lucky. My arm hadn't made it through the door, but before I could pull my arm free, it slammed closed one more time. This time, with more force, nearly severing my arm fully. It dangled by a piece of skin, the bone shattered as I looked at it in horror. I still play Fall Guys because I can't stop, but with one less arm now. Number 5. Under the Skin. Have you ever wondered what the Fall Guys look like outside of their costume? I did, until I found a bootlegged copy of the game that answered my question. This game claimed to be a skinless Fall Guy version, to reveal the truth of what the beans looked like without all their fancy full bodysuits and costumes. I honestly expected them to look like jelly beans, but what I saw was much more disturbing than that. These weren't just beans. When I booted up the game, it immediately took me to a screen where I could pick skins or remove skins. With anticipation, I clicked the button to remove all skins and artificial colors. What I saw shocked me. Underneath all of that was a shriveled looking creature with a big round face. Its arms and legs were plump, but its mid-body was like a rail-thin skeleton. You could see its ribs and its chest heaving. Its eyes, without the skin bordering it, almost looked like they were bulging out of its head, and its mouth was twisted into a grotesque toothy grin. Number 4. Fall Guys 666. One night, Scott was playing Fall Guys at home alone. His parents had gone to the hospital to pick up and take home his grandma who'd been sick. Fall Guys was nice and cheery, the perfect game to play and not have to worry about being home alone. That was until he noticed Fall Guy 666. That wasn't even really the right numbers to be a proper ID tag, he thought. This Fall Guy was also weird. It didn't attempt the obstacle course, just ran up and allowed itself to fall to its doom on repeat. Scott watched it for a second and then dismissed it as another player maybe having a bad connection. He attempted the course and got sent back to the start, his last checkpoint. Fall Guy 666 was still there and seemed to wave at him. He went to run past it but was grabbed. Then he got an alert on his phone. It was a text from an unknown number. "Stay with me," it read. Scott attempted to get away, wiggling around, and eventually got free of the Fall Guy's grasp. He was a little freaked out but continued the obstacle course. When he made it past the level, he noticed he had multiple missed texts. His phone had been on silent, and after the last creepy text, he'd just flipped the screen face down. The text read, "You shouldn't have done that. I just wanted to be friends." Why? "I'm going to get you. I know you. I know your parents." Followed by a picture of his parents getting out of their vehicle to pick up his grandmother. His parents never came home that night and are still missing. Scott is living with his uncle and no longer plays online games of any kind. Number 3. A Visitor. I spent all day playing Fall Guys, so much so that before I fell asleep, surrounded by my Fall Guys plushies, it was all I could think about. It took a while for me to actually drift into sleep because of this. When I did, I had a nice dream of playing Fall Guys. I was doing well, I was easily getting through courses without falling, avoiding all the obstacles handily. I jumped and reached a crown, but then I heard a noise, like a siren. I awoke in my room, and I saw in the corner of my room a large figure standing there in the dark. I was terrified and I went to get up, but I couldn't move. The creature came towards me. It was a Fall Guy wearing a crown, but with a bloody face and eyes. Blood was dripping out from underneath it, and it reached out towards me. It came close to my face. I felt the blood drip onto my face. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. Wanted to move, but I couldn't. I felt as though I couldn't breathe. The creature was heavy as it leaned over me. Horrified, I laid there helplessly. Finally, after what felt like hours of it terrorizing me, it left the room, drifting out through the door. I slowly found myself able to move again. Worried for my parents, I turned on my light and ran into the hallway, burst into their room, but they were asleep, and there was no Fall Guy there. It had all been the worst kind of dream. A waking nightmare. And yet when I went to the bathroom, the drops of blood that dripped off of it were still on my face. Number 2. Cursed Crossover. This is the story of the cursed computer. If you ever come across a computer that has a red Snoopy sticker on its side and a little notch near its base, you have been warned. This computer creates crossover games somehow. It might sound fun until you realize that this blend of games is based on whatever you play the most, and that these entities can also come into your home. Consider what kinds of games you play the most. For many of us, these are horror-themed games or battle royales. I've attempted to destroy the computer, which brought a combined character of a Fall Guy and William Afton into my home. But even though I burnt it in the fireplace and attempted to smash it to pieces with a hammer, it has kept returning. Your only way to rid yourself of the cursed computer is to sell it. The great thing is it won't be your problem anymore, but it will be someone else's, which is why I'm writing this story, to warn you. This combined Fall Guy FNAF character killed my family, but then vanished. I fortunately wasn't wrongfully accused of their deaths, but no one believes me when I try to tell them what really happened. Number 1. Fall Guys Dark Web Edition. This is a story my friend told me about someone they knew who was invited to play a dark web version of Fall Guys. The dark web is a place where people go to basically conduct illegal business trades and find easier ways to commit all kinds of twisted and heinous crimes. The rumor goes that the dark web Fall Guys is a game with real-world stakes, where there's a room full of people with numbers tattooed on them to represent the users in the game. Every time one of the in-game characters is eliminated, one of the real-world people is executed by electrocution. There is a live feed available for you to see supposedly in the top right corner, and if you win, the person with your number tattooed on them is forced to wear a crown made of razor-sharp barbed wire. My friend told me that they heard from their friend that the live feed looks super real. At first they apparently thought it was all fake, just some kind of sick joke, but when they saw someone die for the first time on camera, they began to question if it was fake or if it was real. The death and the person who came to drag their lifeless body out both seemed very real. I cannot believe these creepypastas! So horrifying! Making a game this lovely feel so scary seems like it should be some kind of crime. But then again, there are lots of fans who love Fall Guys who are begging for that lore, and the reality is, if these are beings in suits without mouths competing endlessly in competitions, the game is really pretty dark in terms of its concept. I'll leave you with that thought to ponder on. How dark or how bright is Fall Guys really? This has been Top 10 Gaming, and I'm your host Amanda McKnight, reminding you till next time to keep on gaming on. Pew pew!